So parents come and they see those children's files, and they start to write about their children's learning and development, and they get excited about it. We lend them a camcorder, we lend them a camera, they start taking photographs. There are dads who are, what's they called? I keep calling it YouTube, it's not YouTube, it's Facebook. Facebooking staff at 6:30 in the morning, sending videos through their mobile phones. This is what he did at the weekend. He's so interested in, trajectories, and he's using Piagetian language and telling us what the children are doing and how excited they are. And he's learning to do right-angled turns because his grandpa let him sit on his trailer and he was reversing into the farmyard. Whatever it is that the children are excited about, that becomes the curriculum for Monday. That's how you engage children who are normally disenfranchised in the education system, by building on what excites their learning. I've also heard stories about community consultation, like you had a big local meeting and now it's gone to a smaller group making the decisions, and there are other people who are still around. And I'm wondering how that feels for the people who were in the big meeting. I know at my county, they don't like me in meetings. I can't think why. So when I was a head, they used to change the constitution of the meeting in order to eliminate the dissenting groups. And I'm not suggesting that's what's happened here. And I'm sure there were good pragmatic reasons to make the meeting smaller. But we have to be ethically pragmatic, and we have to put up with dissident voices and difficult meetings and large groups, as well as going off but if the large group feels that the small group is going off and making the decisions, that is highly problematic. In fact, it would make me quite angry if I was a participant. So whether that's happened or not, whether the intentions are good or not, you've got to move forward. So you're going to have to make decisions around this community consultation. Could it happen in one of the meetings we went to? It was the neighbourhood house saying that they hadn't been consulted with, and by the end of the meeting, and we nearly had a fist fight, by the end of the meeting was going to happen in the community house. Could that happen here? Instead of being here in the civic centre, could it be in the community house? It could. Do you work in the community house? You could make that meeting happen there. It'd be good. So we could shift where we have the meeting. You're a gorgeous worker in childcare and you work with children and families. If we wanted to have an evening meeting, because you work a lot, and you said to me a beautiful thing, you don't expect the families to go to the services, you go with them. Now that's in the tradition of Susan Isaacs, who in 1929 said, don't take your child for a walk, go with them. Enjoy it, be there. So you don't expect your parents who use your service, who are in a vulnerable community, to go off and find the professional. You'd go with them. And a lot of parents say, if you don't come with me, it's like the group, we have a daytime group and an evening group for bitching about how rubbish we are as professionals running this service, basically. It's how it feels on a bad day. It can be celebrating what we do on a good day. But parents always say, can I bring a friend? Because if you want to say something critical, you want your mate next to you, can I bring a friend? Because you're not going to say it. These people have power over your child. They're going to either be nice to your child or nasty to your child. Little do the parents know that the more you're involved, the less likely professionals are to take it out on your child, actually. Because, the power shifts and the balance shifts. Those people are going to be working with my child, teaching my child. They've got to be the very best people. And every community wants that. They want the very best professionals. So you're going to have to think, could you run in the evening at your place? And maybe if there was a creche, we'd pay for a creche, 3 or 4 creche workers. We could have a nice meeting in your nursery, and the creche workers could be there to play a bit, and we could pay them for a couple of hours. That means there's got to be a budget. These community meetings need to have a small budget. So in order to be able to have fabulous play equipment out that's age appropriate to make people feel comfortable about coming, that's going to mean somebody's got to lend it. And maybe the parent would prefer to have their child cared for by granny or a child carer so they can come and be fully participating, in which case there's going to be babysitting needing to be paid. And then you may double your attendance. You could decide we won't run the meeting if there are more professionals than parents. And then you'll all get hacked off with wasting your time coming to these meetings. And so you'll start bringing parents, making sure you give people lifts or arrange a minibus. So we've got things that we could concretely do different. I hate the word disadvantage, but low socioeconomic, whatever you use, whatever words you use, there are critical issues about poverty. Poverty leads to all sorts of things, and poverty is highly linked with underachievement at school. Poverty is highly linked with poor educational opportunities for parents. A mother's education is the single factor that's much more than leadership in schools, much more than how pretty it's good. It's the mother's education, which is why your adult learning, my child needs an educated mother. That's what Maria, one of our parents, said. Every child needs an educated mother, because statistically, they're going to do extremely well if their mother is educated, and they're not going to do very well at all if the mother isn't, which is a good reason for having all your children family centres as centres for adult learning. But people don't want to be called disadvantaged. They don't want to be called a low decile area. They don't want to be called any of that stuff. But I think we can't fudge the data. Data is really useful. So if the data is saying low uptake on breastfeeding, if we know that breastfeeding is fundamentally important to children's learning and development, then we've got to try and do something about it. So it's trying to get but it may not be the starting point. I think for me, it's don't start with what you think is a good idea for this community. Start with what the community thinks they really want. Yeah, it's all over the play area. So you actually couldn't take your child to play. So communities will have things they really mind about. And it may not be what the starting point you'd mostly like, but chances are if you could start talking to them in a non-bureaucratic, jargon-free way, you may find out, and it probably will be second chance education. So what you're saying is get rid of some of the jargon bus challenge. And I use it, other people use it. Try and find respectful ways of working. We've got to be very honourable about the language we use to talk about people who will be in this room, will have very powerful views. But I am interested in the inequalities in society. We've got to turn it around. So more choice, more voice. In this project, it will be the people with less choice, less voice.